Hi again. Johnny Cash. The story of his, was it conversion? In a cave? Nickajack Cave in Tennessee. And now the story of his withdrawal from drugs and recovery and coming to Christ in the fullest sense. During the following days, I moved through withdrawal to recovery. I retreated to the house I'd just bought on Old Hickory Lane, Old Hickory Lake, and at first lived in just one room, one of the big circular rooms overlooking the lake. June, that is June Carter, and her mother and father formed a circle of faith around me, caring for me and insulating me from the outside world, particularly the people, some of them close friends, who'd been doing drugs with me. June contacted Dr. Nat Winston, the Commissioner for Public Health of the state of Tennessee, on my behalf, and Nat came to the house every day, holding my feet to the fire and giving me vital support. At first it was very hard for me to illustrate. In Man in Black, that's the book he'd written in the 1970s, I described a phenomenon that began on my third night home, when I was finally able to get to sleep at about 3 in the morning and continued for about 10 days. This is directly from Man in Black, this section. It was the same nightmare every night, and it affected my stomach, I suppose because the stomach was where the pills had landed, exploded, and done their work. I'd be lying in bed on my back or curled up on my side. The cramps would come and go, and I'd roll over, doze off, and go to sleep. Then, all of a sudden, a glass ball would begin to expand in my stomach. My eyes were closed, but I could see it. It would grow to the size of a baseball, then a volleyball, then a basketball. And about the time I felt that the ball was twice the size of a basketball, it lifted me up off the bed. I was in a strange state, half asleep and half awake. I couldn't open my eyes and I couldn't close them. It lifted me off the bed to the ceiling, and when it would go through the roof, the glass ball would explode, and tiny infinitesimal slivers of glass would go out into my bloodstream from my stomach. I could feel the pieces of glass being pumped through my heart into the veins of my arms, my legs, my feet, my neck, my brain, and some of them would come out in the pores of my skin. Then I'd float back down through the ceiling onto my bed and wake up. I'd turn over on my side for a while, unable to sleep. Then I'd lie on my back, doze off, get almost asleep, and the same nightmare would come again. I never imagined a hole in the roof. I just went right through it without an opening. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. That's the end of the quote from Man in Black. Back to the autobiography. I also noted that, as well as the glass coming out of my skin and the corners of my eyes, I had the old problem of splinters, briars, and thorns in my flesh, and sometimes worms. I don't know at this point how much of this is just his imagination because of his amphetamine and barbiturate use during the touring days. Eventually, slowly, and with relapses and setbacks, I regained my strength and sanity, and I rebuilt my connection to God. By November 11th, 1967, I was able to face an audience again, performing straight for the first time in more than a decade at the high school in Hendersonville, my new hometown. I was terrified before I went on, but surprised, almost shocked to discover that the stage without drugs was not the frightening place I'd imagined it to be. I was relaxed that night. I joked with the audience between numbers. I amazed myself. What happened then was even more startling. Vivian, that is his wife from the 1950s, Vivian divorced me. June and I got married on March 1st, 1968. I went to Folsom Prison in California and recorded my Live at Folsom Prison album, which got me a huge hit for the second time with Folsom Prison Blues and lit a big fire under my career. The following year, the Johnny Cash Show started up, putting me on ABC network television for an hour a week, coast to coast. Then on March 3rd, 1970, John Carter Cash was born, and my happiness grew and grew. Sobriety suited me. God had done more than speak to me. He had revealed his will to me through other people, my family and friends. The greatest joy of my life was that I no longer felt separated from him. Now he is my counselor, my rock of ages to stand upon. We'll do some follow-up segments on how Johnny Cash fed himself in the subsequent years. I'll put in a link to why don't Jehovah's Witnesses sing psalms, or for that matter, classical music, even the great sacred music of people like Handel, Bach, and Vivaldi, sacred music to the glory of God. See you soon.